Renault's Kangoo van has evolved, but not beyond recognition. This Phase 2 version is smarter, cleverer and better built. Its energy DCI diesel engines are also impressively economical, plus there's zero emissions all-electric technology should you want it. In short, if you're in the market for a compact yet spacious van, it's still a strong contender.
Renovation. What on earth does that mean? Well, apparently it's got something to do with a programme of innovation that the French maker has in mind for its most practically orientated models, starting with this one, the third generation Renault Kangoo van. We haven't actually had a completely fresh generation Kangoo model since 2007, so this one is a big deal. Full of all the most clever ideas that the Renault LCV design department's been working on over the last decade. Sadly, we won't get all of these in right-hand drive models, but the improvement in the products we can have is evident among almost everywhere you look with this third generation version. Here it will only be available in the usual ML standard wheelbase and LL maxi long wheelbase length sizes. As a van, continental markets continue also to get this model as a passenger carrying MPV. In all its forms, the Kangoo has long been a staple product for the Renault lineup and for French industry. Originally launched back in 1997 to replace Renault 5-based Express small vans, it's always been made in France since 2011 at Renault's plant in Maubeuge. That was the year that the all-electric ZE version was first launched, the market's very first full battery-powered van, which went on to sell over 70,000 units by the time of the introduction of this Mark III Kangoo, the EV model's motor and charging unit made at Renault's Cléon factory in Normandy. Like the previous generation Kangoo, the design of this one is cloned by a Mercedes model, the Citan, and also this time by a small Nissan van, the Townstar. Both broadly mirror the lineup we have here, primarily selling with the diesel power plant we're testing today, and also available with a hugely improved version of the EV drivetrain we just mentioned. So, does Kangoo still mean can do? Well, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out. We've been talking for years about vans, particularly small ones, becoming more car-like, but this one really is. Renault wants to talk plenty about the E-Tech full EV version of this third generation Kangoo, and we'll be doing that too shortly, but most in the van market still aren't quite ready for the inconvenience and sky-high prices of EV commercials. So, for the time being, the key variants here will be the combustion ones, particularly the DCI 95 diesel derivative we're trying today. If you're after a combustion Kangoo, you don't have to have this DCI 95 model, but it's almost certain that you will. The only alternatives, after all, are either the same engine in pricier 115 horsepower form with a mandatory auto gearbox, or the token petrol option that most rivals don't bother to offer because hardly anyone wants it. In this case, a 1 litre, 3-cylinder, 100 horsepower TCE turbo unit from the Clio. So, DCI 95 it is. Your initial impressions likely to be dominated by three most un-van-like things: exemplary refinement, a low car-like driving position, and a particularly smooth, shifting 6-speed manual gearbox that might convince even urban folk tempted by that alternative automatic. The high-set gear lever falls easily to hand and is complemented by light but accurate steering. The brakes are strong and ride quality is well judged, though as usual with a van, it can get a little choppy when the vehicle's unladen. This little turbocharged 4-cylinder 1.5 litre DCI diesel, once the linchpin of Renault's business, has now vanished from the brand's passenger car range, but it doesn't take long using it in this Kangoo to realise that this power plant's still got plenty of life in it yet. 95 braked horses doesn't sound very much, but they're accompanied by 260 newton meters of torque, enough, as long as you don't press the dashboard eco button, to deliver the eager mid-range pulling power you need for typical give-and-take suburban delivery motoring. Maximum speed is 102 miles an hour, and the 62 mile an hour sprint from rest is 13.6 seconds. Stats: the DCI 115 version theoretically improves by 6 miles an hour and 1.5 seconds, but if anything, the 115 horsepower version feels slightly more slothful, weighed down by slightly leisurely responses from its EDC dual clutch 7-speed auto transmission. There are no slothful responses from the E-Tech EV version, not this time round anyway. The original electric Kangoo van may have been an LCV segment zero emissions pioneer, but despite constant updates, its technology had long been superseded by the end of the last decade. It's back on track now though, the old 44 kilowatt motor replaced by a 90 kilowatt unit powered by a considerably larger battery, increased in size from 33 to 45 kilowatt hours. As a result, range is up to 186 miles, up from 143 before, and power output has now almost doubled to a class-creditable 120 horsepower, with 245 newton meters of immediately available torque. The E-Tech version has the same 1.5-ton braked towing capacity as the diesel variant too. There are 3 provided levels of selectable regenerative braking, B2 being the default one when you shift the big gear selector into its B regenerative setting. From there, you can alternatively choose the B1 sailing setting, which limits energy harvesting to the minimum for unimpeded highway use. Or activate the fiercest B3 brake setting, which you'd use in town for maximum energy replenishment. Even B3 though doesn't really provide for the kind of e-pedal driving championed by Renault's alliance partner Nissan, where you hardly ever need to use the actual brake. As with the diesel, there's also an eco mode to stifle the throttle and maximise range, but in the E-Tech version it muffles power output more considerably, reducing it by half to just 60 horsepower. So you won't really want to engage it outside the city limits unless you really are running low on charge. If your deliveries are less city-based and more of the countryside or building site sort, then you'll want to consider Renault's optional rough terrain pack, which adds 20mm of extra ground clearance, steel protection under the engine, all-weather tyres and the brand's Grip Extend front-wheel traction system. And to finish with, we'll observe that this Mark III Kangoo has been transformed in terms of potential for safety camera and drive assist kit, with up to 20 potential features available. Unfortunately, nearly all of them are optional, and the clever traffic jam and highway companion, which basically drives your Kangoo for you in low-speed traffic queues and long highway trips, is only available on the electric version. On all versions though, you can now specify an optional 5-inch rear view assist screen where the rear view mirror would normally sit, operated by a camera at the back of the vehicle, which is just another of the features reminding you that this really is a van of its time. The Kangoo model line urgently needed a thorough visual redesign, which is what's been delivered here. In third generation form, it certainly looks a lot more modern, with a shorter bonnet and squarer lines. The large Renault badge on the nose, which conceals the charging socket on the E-Tech electric model, is flanked by headlamps incorporating the brand's signature C-shaped daytime running lights. A bee-sting aerial sits above the centre of the windscreen, just above the camera that serves this improved Kangoo's considerably more sophisticated portfolio of camera safety systems. Body length has increased with this third generation design. This ML standard length version up 204mm to 4,486, and the long wheelbase LL body shape up 244mm to 4,910. From the side, the outline of the Continental passenger MPV version's glasshouse is clearly evident above the waistline. Unfortunately though, with this base trim level, no lower side rubbing strips feature, which might lead to a few unwelcome paintwork scrapes. The indicators are built into the door mirrors, which is neat, but will require higher replacement costs if the outer edges get smashed or scraped during congested urban use. There's a single 16-inch wheel size, but with plusher spec, the steel rims are embellished by flex plastic trims. Base models like this one without an electric parking brake get old-fashioned drum brakes at the rear. Also at the rear, where the latest Renault badge is proud and centre, there are smart light clusters with a smart curved illuminating signature, along with lower corner reflectors and the usual upper stoplight. The left-hand door has been made wider to improve access in tight spaces, and here it's emblazoned with a reminder that this LCV won the coveted International Van of the Year award at its launch in 2022. Renault promises an even bigger step forward inside, where just about everything that matters has been carried over from the current Clio Super Mini. So, is that what's delivered here? Well, the answer is that this is, by quite a distance, the smartest Renault van cabin you'll ever have sat in. And if you get a version with this 8-inch EasyLink centre screen, it'll feel pretty car-like too. The key change this time round is that you can have a two-person passenger seat, though only as standard with plusher trim, which is why we haven't got it here. But the main thing you'll take away here is the feel of an interior that's far less utilitarian than before. Not perhaps quite as solid as the cabin of a rival Volkswagen Caddy, but certainly better finished with smarter touches like silver bezeled climate dials and shiny black inserts on the steering wheel and around the gear stick. The need to borrow fittings from the current more upmarket feeling Renault Clio Super Mini has clearly helped here, as has the need to provide an interior fit for embellishment by the Mercedes version of this design, the Citan. You view the binnacle gauges through a confident-looking 3-spoke wheel lifted from the Clio, with identical multifunction controls, including a useful extra stalk for the audio system. Digital instruments haven't reached the combustion part of the van segment yet, though you can have them on the EV version. Here, you can upgrade this 3.5-inch display between these gauges to a 4.5-inch colour status if you're getting screen withdrawal symptoms. Either way, the display has vehicle, audio, nav, eco and drive assist sections selectable via steering wheel buttons. Using these, you can select features like a digital speedo, trip data, a compass, tyre pressures and meters for measuring horsepower, torque and MPG. And you can alter the intensity of the instrument panel lighting. Talking of displays, let's get to that big EasyLink centre monitor we just mentioned, since you're likely to want that. Now bear in mind that even where this display comes as standard, you have to pay extra to add navigation into it. There are no useful physical buttons surrounding the screen, but you do get a vertical menu of touch-sensitive shortcut options up the left-hand side, one of which has to be volume because there's no physical controller provided for it around the frame. As is the current trend with monitors of this sort, your starting point for use can either be a customisable split screen. Here we've got a nav map accompanied by phone and audio sections. Or you can choose to start your perusal of the various EasyLink menus from this icons screen with nav, radio, music, phone and apps sections, the latter being a potential storage point for your photos and videos. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring is included too, though not wirelessly. There's also a car info section which houses this van's useful driving eco tools for increasing frugality. What else? Well, the seats, which come trimmed in hard-wearing dark fabric, are reasonably supportive, and the driver's chair is, like the steering wheel, height adjustable. However, the ceilings casing for the compartment cubby built into the bulkhead that we'll show you in our practicality section rather severely restricts ceiling headroom for the driver, limiting your use of seat height adjustment and making things feel slightly claustrophobic. Unless you're very small of stature, you certainly won't be able to wear a hard hat at the wheel with this in place. Unlike in quite a few obvious rivals, you can't have a folding passenger seat or a load-through hatch to the cargo area. In left-hand drive Kangoos, Renault makes up for this by offering a central folding backrest that turns into a handy work surface, but we can't have that here. Nor are we offered the Continental model's neat, easy life glove box drawer, and to add insult to injury, the glove box that UK versions of this van do get is halved in size by a fuse box, an issue you'd think Renault would have solved on right-hand drive models by now. You can't lock the glove box lid either. Still, on the plus side, the buttons and dials are easy to use with a gloved hand. You're favoured with individual overhead reading lights, and you do get an awful lot of different cabin stowage areas, which together offer 60 litres of interior storage space. At the time of our test in early 2023, this Kangoo was priced from £24,505 on the road in this base blue DCI 95 diesel form, which is what most customers will want. That's a VAT inclusive price, so to use that entry-level figure as an example, the reclaimable VAT figure for business users would be £3,910 in the case of the entry-level DCI model. As we filmed, Renault was on the road pricing diesel Kangoos in the £25,000 to £30,000 bracket, but of course you'll need to check the brand's price list for up-to-date figures at the time you're viewing this film. You can save just over £1,000 on that base diesel's on-the-road price if yours is one of the few companies interested in this model's available TCE 100 petrol power plant. That petrol version's only available in ML short wheelbase form. Opt for this diesel though, and for an extra £1,800 on the road premium over the ML body shape, you can have the option of the LL long wheelbase version, which of course will offer you more loading and carriage options in day-to-day use. With either body shape, there's a choice of two trim levels, base start or for £1,200 more, plusher advance. Diesel drivers who choose Advance will be offered the opportunity of paying a £2,280 premium to get the DCI engine in uprated 115 horsepower form mated to EDC automatic transmission. If you want the fossil-fuelled crew van version with its fold-out second seating row, you'll need to stick with the 95 horsepower diesel engine, the ML body shape and base start trim. Got all that? Good. The full electric E-Tech Kangoo is of course vastly more expensive, even when you subtract the government's still available £2,500 plug-in van grant from the mildly off-putting total asking price. At the time of this test, with that grant taken into account, on-the-road Kangoo E-Tech pricing started from around £35,000. Again, there are start and advanced trim levels and ML and lengthier LL body shapes. The latter requiring the same £1,800 premium as with the diesel. And also, as with the diesel, you can have a crew van EV variant if you stick with the ML body style and base start trim. As we filmed, the Kangoo E-Tech on-the-road price span was in the £35,000 to £38,000 bracket. Renault has shown what it calls a hippie caviar hotel concept version of this E-Tech model, a kind of upmarket alternative to Volkswagen's Caddy California small motorhome with a ski rack, a panoramic roof and an incorporated single bed. But as we filmed, there was no news as to whether this would make it to production or make it over here. Enough on prices and range semantics. How does the value proposition here compare to obvious rivals in the small van segment? Well, in answering that, we'll base our observations on prices as they were at the time of filming in early 2023. Things may have changed a little by the time you view this film, but what we're about to say here will give you a good value perspective as a starting point. We should start with a comparison to the two models that share all the same engineering here, Nissan's Townstar and the Mercedes Citan. As you might expect, the Townstar is priced almost identically to this Renault, but comes with a longer 5-year or 100,000 mile warranty. To get the Mercedes, it will cost you about £1,000 more with the diesel version, but there's a big premium to go from a Kangoo E-Tech to a Mercedes E Citan, around £5,000. Next, you might well be looking at the shared design Stellantis Group small vans in this segment, the Citroën Berlingo, the Peugeot Partner, the Vauxhall Combo and the Fiat Doblo. LCVs that also share their design with Toyota's Pro-Ace City. Because all 5 of these models are basically the same, you might expect them to be priced very similarly, but they're not. Let's start with the diesel variants. At the time of filming, the DCI version of this Renault that we're trying here was undercut by around £2,500 by a Vauxhall Combo and by around £1,300 by a Citroën Berlingo. But a diesel Fiat Doblo would cost you about £500 more than this Kangoo, and a diesel Peugeot Partner about £1,000 more, while a diesel Toyota Pro-Ace City is about £2,000 more. With the EV versions of those 5 competitor models, prices vary widely too. As we filmed, the E-Tech EV version of this Renault was undercut by around £3,500 by a Vauxhall Combo Electric, by around £2,500 by a Citroën e-Berlingo, and by about £1,000 by a Toyota Pro-Ace City Electric. But a Fiat e-Doblo or a Peugeot e-Partner would cost you about £2,250 more than a Kangoo E-Tech. That's your lot for EV model comparisons, but if, as is likely, what you're after is the diesel version of this Renault we have here, then you'll also want to factor in the 2 other key models in this segment, the Volkswagen Caddy Cargo and the Ford Transit Connect. In the future, the Ford will be a rebadged version of that Volkswagen, but as we filmed, that new generation Volkswagen-based Transit Connect was still some way off. The old model still selling well. Partly because it's very good value, it can undercut a comparable Kangoo DCI by around £2,700. The Caddy Cargo, in contrast, costs pretty much the same as this Renault in diesel form. Strangely, neither Ford or Volkswagen have yet got around to developing EV-powered small vans. If, having considered all this and got a favourable deal on a new Kangoo, your decision may be finalised by a strong standard of equipment. Is that what Renault is offering here? Well, let's take a look. Even if you stick with base start trim, your Kangoo will come with automatic headlights and wipers, heated and electrically adjustable door mirrors, cruise control with a speed limiter, and a 3-button folding key with selective opening and a super locking feature. You also get both near-side and off-side sliding loading doors. Most obvious rivals only give you 2 sliding doors if you pay the extra for a long wheelbase model. As long as you avoid the crew van model, you get a proper spare wheel too. Inside, with all Kangoo models, you get manual air conditioning, a front bulkhead and a height adjustable driver's seat, while advanced trim adds a wide view mirror mounted in the passenger side sun visor, which improves your blind spot vision. And the brand offers its My Renault app, which allows you to remotely interact with your Kangoo via your smartphone. Media connectivity depends a lot on which of the 2 trim levels you decide upon. Base start spec gives you only a 3.5-inch monochrome TFT driver information display, though you do also get a DAB radio with Bluetooth connectivity, plus a USB socket and an aux input port. Plusher Advanced trim replaces this with an 8-inch Easy Link central touchscreen, incorporating Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone integration. Importantly, Advanced trim also replaces the single passenger seat fitted to start spec with a 2-person passenger bench seat. And at this higher level, you get rear parking sensors, an electric parking brake, LED lighting in the load area, and an alarm. There is a slightly smarter look and feel with Advanced spec too, courtesy of yellow upholstery accents, a premium gear stick with chrome inserts, and on combustion versions, smart flex wheel trims. With both trim levels, the E-Tech electric versions get a few extra things: automatic air conditioning with a heat pump, a Mode 3 Type 2 AC charging cable for the front E-Tech charging port, and a ZE voice warning noise that emits when the vehicle's driving at low speeds. There's also a bespoke My Renault app for the E-Tech version, which allows you to remotely set charging times to benefit from cheaper off-peak tariffs, or preheat or pre-cool the cabin so you don't have to use climate fan energy doing so once you start off. Perhaps most significantly, the brand includes a heat pump as standard on the E-Tech model so that the passenger compartment can be warmed using ambient air, again reducing energy drain from the climate system in colder conditions. On to options across the Kangoo range. Now, small business owners likely to be driving this Renault themselves may want to add a few extra niceties, things like 16-inch alloy wheels, LED front fog lamps, a hands-free keycard, and centre console storage with an armrest. With base start spec, you could add the two-person front passenger seat for an extra £360, plus you might want to consider LED load area lighting, an electric parking brake, an alarm, and maybe automatic air conditioning too. Advanced spec customers can add power folding mirrors, body-coloured bumpers and body-coloured wing mirrors. And with E-Tech electrical models, you can have a heated steering wheel. Whatever Kangoo you select, it's quite likely that you'll have to pay your dealer extra for your chosen paint colour, because the only standard shades, both solid, are mineral white and urban grey. Metallic paint is £480 more, and there's a choice of 4 different shades, one of them being the oyster grey finish we have here. With base start trim, you might want to add the 8-inch EasyLink centre touchscreen, and with either spec, once you have that, there's the option of paying extra to have that infotainment monitor fitted with Renault's connected navigation services, a package that comes with 3 years of updates, plus Google search for places of interest, along with live traffic info and weather. You'll want to link all of this in with your smartphone, and if you do, you may want to pay a little extra for a smartphone dock, and maybe also for a wireless smartphone charger. With advanced spec, you can also have a bigger and more eye-catching 4.2-inch TFT colour display in the instrument binnacle too. Renault offers a couple of parking packs which give you all-round sensors and a rear camera. We've got that here. Or you can add a rear view assist screen, which takes the place of a rear view mirror and works via a camera installed at the rear of the vehicle. Parking sensors, by the way, can be ordered separately, as can that rear view assist 5-inch screen. If you'll be doing a lot of motorway miles, then you might want adaptive cruise control. And if you'll be delivering to building sites in country areas, you also might want to consider the rough terrain pack, which adds 20mm of extra ground clearance, steel protection under the engine, all-weather tyres, and Renault's Grip Extend front-wheel traction system. You can have that on the E-Tech version too, though only on the ML length version. Across the Kangoo range, some operators will also want to add a speed limiter, which can limit maximum velocity to either 56, 62 or 68 miles an hour. What about practical options? Well, we like the Easy Inside Rack, which allows you to carry longer items at roof level inside the cargo area. And this is also included as part of an optional cargo pack that you can have with base start spec. That pack additionally incorporating wooden load area flooring and side panels, plus LED lighting in the load area. The wooden load area flooring and protective side panels are available separately, or you can have flooring and side panels in protective plastic. Separate interior side panels can be added too. Now, obviously, you can also add a tow bar of the swan neck sort with a 13-pin socket. And as usual with vans, there's the option of replacing the twin rear doors with a tailgate, or adding glazing to the rear and side doors, and even the bulkhead in the unlikely event you should want that. Rear door privacy glass is also available, and you can also add an aluminium roof rack that can transport up to 100 kilos of equipment, plus passenger compartment rubber mats, and front and rear mud flaps can be added too. On to safety. Now, we were disappointed to note that the advanced camera safety features you now get fitted in virtually all passenger cars don't make an appearance as standard in most vans, and they don't appear as standard in this one either. As standard, you get only the basics, a driver's airbag and the e-call system that is now mandated on all new European vehicles. that will advise the emergency services of your GPS position if that airbag inflates in an accident. You can pay extra for a passenger front airbag and tyre pressure monitoring. Included in the price, Renault does also throw in hill start assist, sidewind assist to keep the van stable in crosswinds, and if you've a tow bar fitted, trailer sway assist. What's changed in recent years is that you can now add most of the camera safety features you find in a modern car of this size onto an equivalent van at extra cost, and no fewer than 20 such systems can feature here. If you've added that Easy Link centre infotainment monitor, what you've got fitted will be shown on a selectable driving assistance screen. Here, for instance, 3 key camera features have been added: active emergency braking, collision warning, which is the brand's autonomous braking system, plus lane keeping assist and blind spot warning, which alerts you to vehicles in your blind spot. If you do want to add camera tech like this though, rather than choosing features individually, it's probably better to opt for one of Renault's extra cost advanced driver assist packs, priced between £900 and £1,800, all of which include the 3 aforementioned features, along with overspeed prevention, traffic sign recognition, automatic high beam and a following distance feature, which keeps you a safe distance from the vehicle in front. We like the fact that you can vary the severity of most of these features. The collision warning system, for example, can be set to early, standard or late, and the following distance feature set to work at a given number of seconds behind the vehicle ahead. Pricier advanced driver assist packs add adaptive cruise control and driver attention alert. And if you go for the E-Tech EV model, you'll be offered a version of this pack with all these features, plus Renault's useful traffic jam and highway companion, which basically takes over driving for you in queues and at cruising speeds, dealing with throttle and braking while keeping you centred in your lane. So, which Kangoo is going to suit your business? Well, first you're going to need to select your favoured size, either this standard ML19 body shape with 3.3 cubic metres of space, up from 3 cubic metres with the previous generation model, which is class competitive, or the alternative LL21 long wheelbase version, which has 4.2 cubic metres, up from 4 cubic metres in the previous Maxi variant. As for the payload, well, if that's important to you, then you might want to think twice about the E-Tech electric version, because it's slightly restricted there with this ML standard body shape to 608 kilograms compared to 850 kilograms in the combustion versions. An LL long wheelbase Kangoo E-Tech could carry up to 764 kilos compared to up to 987 in the combustion versions. Those restrictions are due to the extra 200 kilos the E-Tech model carries about, courtesy of its drive battery. Okay, let's take a closer look at practicality. Now, as we told you in our design section, this left-hand door has been made wider to improve access in tight spaces, and there's the usual clip on each of these back door hinges to allow you to open each door wider from 90 to 180 degrees, though unlike on a larger van, there's no option to fold them right back along the sides of the vehicle. As usual, you can optionally glaze these asymmetrically opening doors if you really want to, or add a tailgate instead, though that'll of course make loading with forklifts awkward. If you're lifting things in yourself, you'll want to know the loading height, which is 635 millimetres. Both body shapes can squeeze in a standard Euro pallet thanks to the generous 1,248mm width between the wheel arches that all Kangoos share. It's 1,570mm from wall to wall. This rear entrance aperture is 1,117mm tall by 1,256 wide, narrowing to 1,196mm just above the tail lights. The loading length is 1,806mm in this ML version, or 2,230 with the LL body shape, which has a slightly lower loading sill height of 613mm. Enough on the stats, let's mention a feature we really like on this third generation Kangoo. This optional easy inside rack, a load area ladder rack mounted beneath the roof. Use this yellow toggle to get it to retract, and then ladders and pipes can be kept securely inside the load area rather than on top of the van, where they could be stolen and will certainly affect aerodynamics and therefore running costs. Obviously, this feature reduces cargo compartment load height though, which, without this rack, measures in at 1,215mm. As usual in this class, there's no option of a high roof body shape to extend the ceiling height. Roof top bar fixings are provided for those who prefer a traditional outside ladder rack and don't want to lose interior loading room. Right, let's take a look at side loading practicality. Now, there are issues and pleasant surprises here. We'll start with the main issue, the fact that right-hand drive versions of this Mark III Kangoo can't be had with a feature that on Continental versions of this van completely transforms its sales proposition compared to rivals, the open sesame side door. With this, the lack of a B-pillar, combined with a swivelling bulkhead and a flat seat, makes for a side loading opening so big at 1,446mm that from the side you could load in items of up to 3 meters in length. Unfortunately, this feature can't be engineered for right-hand drive. Pity. We told you there was a positive when it came to side loading here though, and you're looking at it. A sliding door on each side, even in this ML standard length model. With most rivals, you have to stretch to the long wheelbase body shape to get a sliding door on each side. It's a strong selling point. The side door aperture is 736mm by 1054. In this ML model, there are 6 floor tie-downs with 2 more at the back on the side and up to 10 in total on the LL version. Renault hasn't forgotten a 12-volt socket back here either, provided at the back on the left, and a boon for tradespeople who regularly use power tools. There's the usual full-height bulkhead, though this one can't be had with a useful load flap through to the cab, the sort of thing you'll find in most segment rivals. Renault has, though, provided the facility for this right-hand side overhead compartment through above the driver's side of the cab, which might be just enough to get something really long to fit back here. Finally, you'll want to consider load area protection, and Renault offers the choice of wooden or plastic panels. As you can see, we've got the wooden floor and plastic side panels here. As for running costs, well, Renault says it's worked hard in this area. From this DCI 95 diesel model, expect 53.3 mpg on the combined cycle, which we've been getting pretty close to on this test, and 139 grams per kilometre of CO2. That should mean a full tank driving range of up to around 620 miles, provided you aren't carrying a particularly heavy payload. The blue DCI 115 EDC Auto version manages 50.4 mpg and 147 grams per kilometre. The usual AdBlue diesel fuel additive is held in an 18.6 litre reservoir to keep exhaust emissions under control. If you're interested in the TCE 100 petrol variant, you'll want to know that it delivers up to 41.5 mpg and 155 grams per kilometre. All combustion versions get the usual stop-start system to cut the engine when stopped in traffic. The service intervals across the combustion range are set at every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. For the E-Tech version, it's slightly different, with the first service required after either a year or 12,000 miles, and the second one at either 2 years or 24,000 miles. It's then every 24,000 miles or every 2 years. Renault offers LCV service plan packages for both ICE and EV drivetrains that cover you for up to 5 years and 66,000 miles. With the combustion versions, there's a section on the screen between the instrument dials that tells you when an oil change is due. That same screen can also show a real-time MPG meter. To get somewhere near to the quoted WLTP rated figures with any of the combustion models, or indeed with the E-Tech version, you'll need to drive with a fair degree of restraint, which means regularly activating the dash-mounted Eco button, which suppresses throttle use by a massive 50% in the E-Tech model. If you've got the 8-inch EasyLink centre screen fitted in the cab, then that monitor's car info section includes a useful driving eco section with further tools to help your frugality. It gives you a regular eco score out of 100 for each journey, and there's a screen graph showing your recent scores and efficiency. There's also a section with eco coaching tips based around general pointers, then specific ones on acceleration, gear change and anticipation. You won't be using these much though, because they generally turn out to be rather self-evident observations like don't leave the engine idling, stay at a steady speed and change up gears sooner. If you're interested in the EV model, you'll want to know about charging. Well, battery replenishment from 20 to 80% for the all-electric E-Tech version takes 40 minutes at a public 80 kilowatt fast charging point, or 1 hour 21 minutes at a 22 kilowatt public charging point using the provided Mode 3 cable. A 7.4 kilowatt domestic charging point wall box requires just over 4 hours, while you'll need over 13 from a standard 2.3 kilowatt domestic socket. We gave you the EV model's driving range figure in our driving section. It's 186 miles. To give you some class perspective on that, the rival Stellantis Group small EV vans we mentioned in our market section travel between 170 and 175 miles on a single charge. Impressively, to help you get somewhere close to the quoted range in very cold conditions, Renault includes a heat pump as standard on the Kangoo E-Tech, a feature that's often an expensive option on rival EV models. With this, heat's taken from the air around the vehicle to warm up the cabin, so there's no need to expend battery energy with the climate fan. The heat pump system working best when the ambient temperature is between minus 15 degrees and plus 15 degrees Celsius, a common range for the cold seasons in most European countries. You can also precondition the cabin before you arrive to start driving using the provided My Renault app. What about insurance groups? Well, they're rated at 33E for the DCI diesel and 34E for the E-Tech. As for residual values, well, they seem class competitive. At the time of this test, industry experts reckoned that after 3 years or 35,000 miles of use, a DCI 95 diesel ML model in start spec would be still worth £9,775 from its original asking price of £24,505. After 3 years and 35,000 miles of use, an E-Tech ML with advanced spec would still be worth £15,600 from its original asking price of £36,175. And finally, there's peace of mind to think about. Across the Kangoo range, a 3-year, 100,000 mile warranty is provided with no mileage limit for the first 2 years and roadside assistance for the entire duration. It's possible at extra cost to extend that warranty to the same 5-year or 100,000 mile package as you get with the mechanically identical Nissan Townstar. Nissan, though, offers that extended package at no extra charge. Renault also offers its iCare pay-as-you-go package, which covers service, maintenance and repair costs you might have to pay. Across the Kangoo range, you get a 3-year paintwork guarantee and a 12-year anti-corrosion warranty. There's so much about this third-generation Kangoo that represents a clear step forward. Efficiency, cabin design, styling, safety, connectivity. We think innovations like the easy inside rack interior roof storage system and the extended bulkhead compartment are brilliant. But like other commentators, we're very disappointed that arguably this Renault's cleverest design feature, the B-pillarless open sesame side door, can't be offered to UK customers. One of the several clever features lacking on right-hand drive models. Still, what remains on the spec sheet certainly ought to catch the attention of UK businesses browsing in the segment for compact vans. And the E-Tech EV version is a huge step forward in terms of both efficiency and drivability. If you want to see just how far full battery-powered small vans have come in recent times, and electric Kangoo needs to be high on your list of alternatives to try. As with the combustion engine version though, its advantages are duplicated by equivalent versions of the Nissan Townstar and the Mercedes Citan, so it could all come down to the deal you're offered and the location of your dealership as to which of the three you pick. Renault's wide-ranging UK Pro Plus van specialist dealer network, though, should leave the brand well placed in that regard. And in summary, well, if you're shopping in this class, make no mistake, this Kangoo has to be high on your list of contenders to try if you're to make the right buying or leasing decision. It turns out that Renaultvation really does mean something after all.